Slaves might have been born here, but that doesn't make them American. And so, what was that written for? That was to say, yes, slaves are American. You know why that had to be done? Because the stupid Supreme Court had just a few years earlier said no slave can ever be a citizen. No slave can ever be a citizen.
Well, the truth is, y'all fucking masters shouldn't be shit.
What are you talking about? And so we had to make sure that they had the right. It was not. It is the Constitution a suicide pact? I just want to know. Is the Constitution a suicide pact? Because then I understand birthright citizenship. Then I understand it. If you can have people come in from China, a sworn enemy, and just have babies, and then raise them in China, and then bring them over here when they're of voting age so they can vote in our elections, that's a suicide pact. Okay? There's got to be some common sense. You know, all of our children, all of our 18,000 children were born here, and we all believe in Sharia law. We've hated this country from the very beginning. We came over here so we could have our 18,000 children, because we knew that when they grow up, they're going to be able to change the course of this country by voting for Sharia law. That's not what that was for. That's not what that was for. You have to apply some common sense occasionally. But why would we expect that? Honestly, why would we expect that from anybody on the left? And that's not a political comment. I don't think there's a lot of common sense. No. There's some common sense. They're just so stupid and so self-centered. They don't even recognize the world we're living in today. That's the GOP. Okay? This on the left,
Give me some
there's
space.
no common sense there, unless your common sense is let's destroy America. If that's the thing that unites you, then they're with that. Let's destroy America. And then that's the leadership. And then they've taken the control of our educational system and our media to take the average person and just put him to sleep. Absolutely put him to sleep. So you'll actually sit there at home and you'll listen to somebody say, I went to Japan and I got wallet. You listen to that go, you know what, she makes good point. No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. If that was somebody on our side, would you accept that as a good, valid point? No, you wouldn't. And you know what? If they were on my side and they were like, I've not got a wallet, I would be saying, this person is a moron. How can you be so blind to what? Am I alone in this? Jason, Ricky, am I alone in this?
No, and actually, the Daily Wire has an op-ed today that says that Ketanji Brown Jackson needs to be impeached.
She should be.
How does that process work, and has it ever happened?
No.
I'm out of my depth.
No.
I do not know. But I could go on here and say, but if I had a wallet, I would know all of the answers. I don't know. I have to look that up. There have been many Supreme Court justices that should have been impeached just based on, for instance, a slave can never be a U.S. citizen. I can't remember the case, and it's such a very important one. Everybody else knows the case that they came from. It was Dred Scott. Okay, that for the love of Pete, that was an abomination back then. It's an abomination today, and we all know it. And in the dead of night, I can wake up anywhere. If I can get them and wake them out of their political sleep, where everybody just kind of is walking in this sleep, and then it's like, wait, what side is my side on? What side my team for this time? Okay, my team's for that, then I'm for that too. If I could just wake people up in the middle of the night out of that political sleep and say, hey, should should people coming from hostile countries be able to just have have tourism where they have babies over here in America, then raise them in their hostile nation, and then when they're 20, send them over here to vote? Everybody would say, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. No sense at all. But that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And I'm sorry, but that doesn't fly with me. Is Chip Roy going to be on today, or is he?
We keep being told he's 1 minute out. 1 minute.
Well, I've got 2 minutes left for him now. So if he's not here in 1 minute, he's going to miss. Because as riveting as 1 minute would be with Chip, because it always is, we're going to have to pass on this because we are out of minutes for him. I don't know. Jason, how is this going to end with the Supreme Court? It did not look good for the side of sanity.
Nah, it doesn't look good. And I did a really quick search to see if you can impeach a sitting Supreme Court justice. You can. It's got to go through the typical impeachment process through the House, then the Senate. But the only thing I see that is the stipulation is for treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors. I propose to add in another clause to there. Also, after high crimes and misdemeanors, also being dumber than a box of shoelaces.
Yeah,
I think we might be done here.
I would like to call that the I got a wallet clause. Are you impeaching her? We're impeaching her on the I got a wallet clause. Yeah. We're almost out of time. Let me come to you. Thanks for joining. I know you're wildly busy today. Can you just give us the rundown on the I got a wallet in Japan stuff yesterday?
That was some stupid
It
shit.
looks like this report is going to go for birthright citizenship, which is suicide.
Well, Glenn, great to be on. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. You're right. I'm on the campaign trail, running for Attorney General across those Texas. So, bottom line here is you guys had it good for you. All right, go ahead. Here is that you got to sleep with this. So, yesterday, I was able to listen to pieces of it. I read a bunch of the summary late night when I got back into the hotel. And yeah, very discouraging about some of the line of questioning about the Chief Justice by Tony Barrett and others. Look, I remain hopeful that common sense will prevail. I wish the solicitor had been a little bit harder for in fundamental core arguments about the 14th Amendment and the interpretation of it. It is absolutely insane. You tell me that under the logical conclusion of quote birthright citizenship as it's currently interpreted, that 20 million Chinese communist mothers can come to America tomorrow, deliver 20 million babies, and you have 20 million citizens. That is ridiculous. Just basically ridiculous. The 14th Amendment does not stand for that. Substitute jurisdiction thereof is a very understood term at the time, and that whole thing is designed to deal with the issue of obviously the post-slavery universities who need to deal with how we treat those human beings. But it was not meant for everybody under the sun to come to America, have a baby, and become a citizen. And I hope that will prevail. We filed a lot of really good amicus briefs. I led one with my good friend Chuck Cooper. I was proud that my work was cited yesterday in the courtroom when Chief Justice Roberts asked the solicitor, hey, what do you have on this birth tourism stuff? He said, look, 19 congressmen sent a letter. I led that effort along with Bob Tiffany to say, look, birth tourism is a real problem. Here's what we understand is the background and the data on it. And I'm glad that I worked decided that, you know what, that doesn't matter if we don't win. We've got to win this stuff. And look, I hope, again, logic will prevail, but we'll have to wait and see what the court does. But as Attorney General, I'm going to continue to fight, and we'll continue to litigate this issue. If they don't do the right thing, there's more angles to pursue, but it just defies common sense that we would allow that to proceed.
Okay, Chip, I got it. I mean, the whole thing yesterday with Iran, where we're headed on that, while we can't seem to fund DHS, we're not passing, the Save America Act. I mean, we are, if we lose the next two elections, the Congress and the Senate possibly, and the presidential election, everything Donald Trump has done is over because Congress didn't codify any of this stuff. They're bleeding that dry because we keep saying, well, we can just pay him out of the big, beautiful bill. We can just pay him out of that. Well, no, I'm sorry. If we do, then we don't get to do all the other things, and they know that are in the big, beautiful bill. Correct?
Well, Glenn, look, this is the fight that we had last Friday.
There?
No,
He wasn't here.
yeah, I'm here. Hey, Glenn.
This was a fascinating conversation
Glenn.
with Chip Roy. Chip, you there?
Hey, Glenn. Yeah, Glenn, how are you?
Okay, you're there.
Glenn.
Good. Okay, sorry. I thought we lost you. I thought we lost you.
No,
So,
sorry.
can you-
This was the fight last week that we had. Yeah, this was the fight we had last week where the Senate tried to jam us with a bill that wasn't going to fund Border Patrol and ICE. I find that offensive. Those men and women that are defending our country deserve full funding. And yes, I know because we had the foresight to put some money out there in the one big beautiful bill for additional enforcement that we have a backstop. But we shouldn't let that be a crutch and then bleed that cry while Democrats hammer our guys. Look, we have got to deliver on what the president's trying to do and what we said we would do. So, I know that this morning the Senate reads unanimous consent and sent that thing back over on the funding side. But what we demanded yesterday, I was on the phone with the White House, I was on the phone with the Speaker, on the phone with senators. What we're demanding is, number one, you're not moving that bill until you get a reconciliation bill done that funds Border Patrol and ICE for the rest of the president's term. So we're going to have that fight out, but we're going to win this fight. We have got to put funding in place to continue to secure the country. We've got to codify the stuff the president's doing. And look, I agree with you, but we're going to get our butt kicked in November. We're going to be the minority, and the president's not going to be able to do his job if we don't deliver over the next 6 months. Republicans need to wake up right now and say, we got to save the country. Islam is marching across our country. Criminals are on our streets. Our border is still unbreakable. There are people in this country who are not supposed to be here, and we've got to deliver. By the way, on Iran, look, my message on that is clear. Take out the conventional stuff, the nuclear stuff, but I don't want boots on the ground, and I don't want blank checks. I'm not signing up for, continued conflict. Make sure that we stand up for our interests. I support the president doing that, but I've told my colleagues, do not see this as an excuse to fund the war machine in Washington. And as Attorney General, I'm going to stand up for all of those things in court as a lawyer who's done the job. God bless you, Glenn. Thank you. By the way, this is the week for our Lord and mercy Savior Jesus Christ. God bless you all, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much. ChipRoy.com. ChipRoy.com will find out more about his race as Texas Attorney General. ChipRoy.com. Thank you for thinking for yourself and being part of a movement, because that's really what all of this is. If you want the full story, you want to go deeper, go to blazetv.com/Glenn. Go there right now, sign up, no interruptions, just the truth, uncensored and unfiltered. Don't just watch, take a stand. I'll see you over there. Alex, good to have you here. Everybody should be praying as hard as they can for this missing pilot. And again, we don't know the exact details. They may find him within the next hour or so. Who knows? But it really does put a fine point on how unpredictable warfare is, doesn't it?
It really does, David, and obviously all of our thoughts and prayers are with the pilot, his or her family. It's an extraordinary thing that we ask these young men and women to do, and it does put a fine point on the fact that no matter how sophisticated our military, no matter how incredible our equipment, this is still warfare, and there's an extraordinary amount of risk that they undertake every day.
Now, one of the reasons why we have the finest military force on the planet is because we leave no man or woman behind in the battle zone. That means a lot to the esprit de corps that we have in our armed forces, and that's why these rescue missions are so important. That the whole country, not only the people here who are praying for these folks and the people in the Pentagon who are working to get them out, but those very brave search and rescue operators on site who are working right now to try to retrieve this pilot.
You're absolutely right, David. And look, we have people, whether it's CENTCOM headquarters in Tampa, whether it's the forward deployed CENTCOM folks in the Middle East, it's the Pentagon, folks at the National Security Council at the White House, the people in the Situation Room on the watch floor. Everyone is working 24/7 to get this pilot home. It is a full team effort. And these things, like you said, this is part of what makes the American military unlike any other, is that no one is ever left behind. There is in no circumstance do we stop until we bring that man or woman home.
Now, the plane that went down was an F-15E. There was an F-16 fighter pilot, wonderful guy who I was listening to, Colonel Dan Rooney, who said that nighttime is, one might think it's a horrible situation to be at night in enemy territory, but he said that actually the darkness is our friend. We have such